Hey gamers, what is going on? We're back with a brand new Lore Friday, and I know it's a bit overdue, maybe by about 2 years, but we're here nonetheless. And today we'll be discussing one of Batman's most prominent rogues, that is Bane. While he's very well known in media, such as the Arkham games or even The Dark Knight Rises, he definitely deserves a lot more comic love, I think. Love in the comics themselves outside of the Nightfall series, which is probably his most prominent role in comic media. So Bane was first created by Chuck Dixon, Doug Monk, and Graham Nolan, and his first appearance was in Batman Vengeance of Bane issue 1. A bit of lore about Bane before some of his more dubious, evil kind of roles. Bane was imprisoned in Punadura, a prison located in Santa Prisca, and was subject to serve his father's sentence after being born in the prison. However, although he was born inside of the walls of the prison, Bane began to read books and increase his knowledge. Eventually, he began to work out in the prison's gymnasium, beginning to get into shape both physically and mentally. While developing his skills, Bane became a murderer after stabbing a man to death who wanted to use Bane in order to gain information about the prison. While imprisoned, Bane befriended a teddy bear which he named Osito, or Little Bear in Spanish. It is revealed later that Osito's mission is twofold. He both keeps Bane company, and he also serves as a way to stash Bane's knife, kind of like inside of the fuzz of the teddy bear. After a little bit, Bane begins to gain a name for himself inside of the prison among the other inmates, and eventually is recognized for both his mental and physical faculties by the prison themselves, the prison staff, and they decide to take Bane as a test subject for a drug they call Venom. Venom had previously killed the other inmates that had taken it. However, out of sheer will, Bane was able to survive the testing. Bane, however, eventually escaped the prison and ended up in Gotham. Bane made it his mission to take on the Batman after hearing stories inside of the prison. Because of his many dreams that terrified him as a child, Bane wants to dismantle the fear around the city that was inflicted upon by Batman. So that's kind of a general overview of Bane's backstory and upbringing. So obviously a very lonely character. And getting into some of his more prominent issues, such as Nightfall. One of the next part of Bane's story follows in the Nightfall series. Bane, realizing that a direct assault on Batman would surely end in disaster, decides to break out many of the inmates held up inside of Arkham Asylum. Batman takes down some of his most prominent rogues throughout the course of the Nightfall, and returns to the Batcave for some rest after pushing his body to its limit. However, Bane, unbeknownst to Batman, is in the cave as well. After a very easy fight, Bane gains the upper hand and picks up the bat and drops Batman onto his knee, breaking Batman's back. In Detective Comics number 667, Batman has passed down his mantle to Jean-Paul Valley, who becomes the new Dark Knight while Bruce is in recovery. Valley's methods become pretty clear really quickly. They're very violent tactics, and he's kind of a hothead as well. In one of the issues, it was one of the first after Valley takes up the mantle, he's in the Batmobile and he's in a subway. And there's a train coming right at him and he narrowly escapes death. So he's kind of a hothead and extremely brutal as well. After a fight with Bane, Valley leaves the Santa Prisca prisoner broken and extremely close to death, barely allowing Bane to live. In Batman Vengeance of Bane 2, Bane recovers from his loss against Jean Paul Valley and joins Batman to help him bring down other criminal rings throughout Gotham City. Eventually, Bane leaves Gotham in search of his father. However, after meeting Ra's al Ghul, he and Bane plan to attack Gotham. Bane, however, goes against Batman, and this time he loses. So a lot like in the Dark Knight trilogy, which we'll get to later, the Dark Knight Rises. He has other issues outside of the Nightfall series as well, one of these being Deceased. So in April of 2020, Deceased continued its story with the Deceased Unkillables arc. Bane made his first appearance in issue 1 as he joined forces with Vandal Savage, creating a group they called the Tree Lobsters. The group hoped to hide out until the antivirus infection died, after which they would inherit whatever was left of the broken Earth. Quick backtrack. The antivirus equation was brought to the Earth by Cyborg. It was, I believe, Darkseid. This isn't scripted, so I'm going off a bit. But I believe it was Darkseid who wanted to destroy Earth. Instead, he kind of created a zombie apocalypse and was one of the first subjects to be infected by the disease. However, after an infected Wonder Woman discovered their hideout and broke in, Bane and the Three Lobsters escaped and found themselves at an orphanage in Bloodhaven. The group stayed in the orphanage and trained the orphans to fight in hopes to take down Wonder Woman would she attack again. Bane began to teach the orphans and even took off his mask for good after the children complained that they could not understand what he was saying. He taught the more philosophical subject of why humanity brought the disease, i.e. the antivirus equation, upon itself. One night, however, Bane finds Ace the Bat-Hound barking incessantly at something. Bane does not realize that Mirror Master is watching him. Mirror Master quickly slashes at Bane, infecting him with the anti-life virus. With the infection in his bloodstream, Bane attacks the orphanage, tearing down walls and allowing the infected to get into the survivors' base. While rushing towards the survivors, Bane is attacked by his teammate, Solomon Grundy, who decapitates him. Shortly after his death, a memorial was erected by the children of the orphanage and the Tree Lobsters to honor the late Bane. Once again, a pretty prominent role in comics. So now we'll delve a bit more into the media side. I'll leave movies till the end, seeing how even though Bane is present in them, the only movie I can really think of where he plays a big role is The Dark Knight Rises. In Batman Arkham Asylum, similarly to the character's initial lore, Bane in the Arkham universe was also imprisoned in Santa Prisca to serve out his father's sentence. His best friend was Osito as well, and similarly, Bane feasted on all the knowledge that the prison's books had to offer and was eventually subject to the experimental testing with Venom. Much like the character's original lore, Bane was the only test subject to survive due to sheer will to survive. However, Bane escaped the prison and found himself in Gotham City, where he sought to best the Batman, eventually breaking Batman's back. However, after his recovery, Batman was able to beat Bane. No mention of Jean Paul Valley is ever made in the game itself or in the criminal files of Bane, leading us to assume that Batgirl, Nightwing, and Robin took over Batman's place during his absence. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure, all the information I looked up, the game itself didn't make any mention of Jean Paul Valley. We are first introduced to Bane shortly after Batman saves Commissioner Gordon from Harley Quinn in Arkham Asylum. Batman and Gordon walk into a foggy room to be met face-to-face with the ferocious fighter. However, Bane's venom supply has been taken and he's only a hollow representation of his venom-induced form. Upon seeing Batman's entrance, the Joker pumps venom into Bane's body, after which Bane attacks Batman. The two duel until Batman narrowly escapes a collapsing room. But when Batman thinks that the fight is finally over, a wall behind Batman crashes, showing the monster Bane right behind it. Grabbing Batman, the Dark Knight fiddles with his gadgets and is able to send Bane into the Gotham River close by thanks to the help of the Batmobile. After surviving his encounter with Batman at Arkham Asylum, Bane went to Arkham City. Upon arrival, he joined various fight clubs and went to an unmatched champions for some and went as the unmatched champion for some time. However, after learning about the operations, Joker sent one of his men to challenge Bane, infecting his thug with the Titan formula. Joker's thug nearly beat Bane, however he died due to the complications with the drug. After his near win, Bane decided that he never wanted to deal with the Titan formula again and began to clean the streets of Arkham City of the chemical. While investigating Bane, Robin followed the monster into the Penguin's hideout. Bane confronted the Penguin about his supply of the Titan formula and told Penguin to destroy it. However, the Penguin released his hidden weapon onto Bane, Solomon Grundy, and Bane was forced to retreat after a fight with the nearly dead monster. After the encounter, Bane met with Two-Face and the jury to decide the fate of the Joker, who comprised the Titan formula. During a decision vote on the Joker, Bane voted against him for the reason alone that Joker owed some of the Titan formula. After seeing a distress flare at Crank Toy Company, Batman went to the building and was surprised to meet Bane fighting some of the Joker's thugs. Rather than challenging Batman to a fight, Bane asked Batman to help destroy the cache of Titan formula that the Joker and the Penguin had. Upon its destruction, Batman returned to the toy factory to tell Bane of his success, only to find that Bane did not have the same idea as the Dark Knight. Bane, instead of destroying the Titan, kept the vats for his own using. However, upon a short duel, Bane was imprisoned in the toy factory cells and the remaining Titan formula was destroyed by Batman. However, Bane eventually escaped his cell and went to the church located in Arkham City after hearing that there was Titan in the building. Upon entering, Bane was met with a barrage of bullets, and while he did get shot, none of them killed him due to his metallic-like skin, probably from the venom. Bane was about to kill some of the officers when Azrael came to the rescue. After their brawl, and with the help of Aaron Cash, Bane's supply of venom was cut, and he was imprisoned in Arkham City alongside the Riddler. After escaping the cell, Bane left Gotham City and returned to Santa Prisca in hopes to get clean of the venom. As far as I know, this isn't official lore, but Bane killed 12 of the most powerful crime lords, decapitating them and leaving their heads on a beach while at Santa Prisca, and tried to destroy the prison that he grew up in. Following the same lines of non-canon, because I found this really interesting, the Arkham City comics kind of expand upon Bane's storyline. So Bane was contained in Stone Ridge Penitentiary, this is after the events of Arkham City, and gained the trust of the staff. However, after giving Bane some venom, Bane took over the prison. Some of the guards created a makeshift bat signal and were able to contact Batman, who, upon arrival, saved one of the guards from Bane. But Bane was able to escape through one of the prison's buses. Batman followed Bane, and after Bane crashed the bus, the two began to brawl. Poison Ivy also saw the two fighting and decided to join the fight. After knocking Batman unconscious, Ivy and Bane began to fight over his body. However, the Arkham Knight intervened and threw Batman's body at Ivy, detonating explosives and sending all three of the fighters flying. After falling into a sewer, Ivy escapes after waking up, and Bane wakes up shortly after, realizing that he broke the Batman's gun and isn't able to grapple out of the sewer. He runs deeper into the tunnels. After waking up, Batman follows Bane deeper into the sewer. Bane, however, plotted this attack and knew that Batman would follow him. His group, called the Church of Santa Prisca, ambushed Batman. After picking up a machine gun, Bane began to shoot at the Dark Knight, killing many of his own men in the process. It appeared that Batman would win the fight. However, Bane tossed one of his own men, who was equipped with grenades at the Caped Crusader, detonating upon impact. The church began to crumble, the church they were inside of. Batman narrowly escaped, and Bane was left unconscious, later found by the Arkham Knight. The Arkham Knight then took Bane as a prisoner and used him for test subjects, as a test subject for Scarecrow's new fear toxin, one that he hoped would plunge Gotham into eternal fear. After they finished their tests, the Arkham Knight told Bane of all of Batman's deepest secrets, including his secret identity. After finding Batman, Bane grabbed the Dark Knight and referred to him as Mr. Wayne. He continued to list off all of Batman's allies and their secret identities. However, Batman escaped Bane's grip and a chase ensued. The Arkham Knight, however, interfered and grabbed Bane by the throat with a wire, dragged him to an APC, and began to drive away. While it seemed as if the two escaped from Batman, Bane broke out of the APC, sending the Arkham Knight flying into the air. But the Arkham Knight slit Bane's throat and exploded a propane tank onto Bane, and finally shot Bane multiple times in the head. So extremely brutal. So that is one of the explanations to what happened to Bane after the events of Arkham City, because we don't see him in Arkham Knights. It's only in the 3 Arkham games, Origins, Asylum, and City, that Bane is in. You can find in Arkham Knight, there is some of Bane's belongings in the evidence room, such as Osido and his machine that goes on his back. Cash explains that Bane may come back, may return for them later, although it's never confirmed, or, not confirmed if Bane is dead at that point. Arkham Origins, one of the most prominent appearances of Bane. Bane's lore in Arkham Origins is similar to the other Arkham games, however, it is different in a few ways. Bane, in this version of the character, escapes Santa Prisca with multiple other escapees, most notably his boss Bird, who the player fights in Arkham Origins. Bane, in the Arkham Origins files, explains that addiction is weakness, and that Venom has become his addiction. Furthermore, he explains that he tried multiple different therapeutic ways to treat his addiction, such as destroying the manufacturing plants and the manufacturers themselves. However, he explains that he found TN1, which contained the same benefits as Venom while removing the addictive properties of Venom. Bane also explains that the side effects include immediate and permanent long-term memory loss, as well as decreased brain function. This does create a small hole in the lore if we're going to try to connect it to the other Arkham games. Being a cruel foe from the beginning, Bane killed several of Joker's men, even when in alliance with the Joker. After being contracted to kill Batman, Bane fought the Dark Knight and brutally beat him. However, Batman narrowly escaped the encounter. Eventually, Bane went to find the Batcave, find out Batman's identity, and Alfred. After destroying the cave, Batman returned to find Alfred dead in a pile of rubble. However, due to the electrocutioner's gloves, Batman was able to resurrect Alfred. After the Joker's assault on Blackgate Penitentiary, Joker pumped Bane full of TN1, and the Dark Knight was forced to fight Bane once again. However, this time, Bane went into cardiac arrest and died. Once again, with the help of the electrocutioner's gloves, Batman was able to bring back Bane from the dead. But Bane wasn't finished just yet. The two played a cat-and-mouse game in the cell block of the penitentiary, where Batman eventually fried Bane's brain, forcing Bane to forget everything he knew about the encounter. The lore in Arkham Origin does create a few holes in the Arkham lore. which is why it makes it difficult to conclude that Arkham Origins is official canon. I know, Rocksteady says it is, but they also said Suicide Squad is canon, and I don't know if anyone actually thinks that. If there are so many continuity errors, how many continuity errors must there be before, we stop taking the developers' words at face value. But that's a whole different story for another video. In Batman the Animated Series, Bane also appeared in the first episode in Season 2, Season 2, Episode 10, titled Bane. After Batman ruins Rupert Thorne's plans, Thorne loses his patience and hires Bane to kill the Dark Knight. Instead of fighting Batman face-to-face, Bane is much smarter and tracks down Killer Croc, who is running from Batman and Robin at the time. Following Croc into a sewer, Bane beats up Croc and leaves him as a calling card to Batman, before smashing the front of the Batmobile. In Arkham, Batman confronts Killer Croc and asks him who beat him up. The Croc describes the man with huge tubes in his head and having a South American accent. In the Batcave, Batman relates the information from Croc into the Batcomputer and lands on Bane. Observing his high assassin fees, Batman concludes that Rupert Thorne must be the person with enough money and hatred to hire Bane. While Robin spies on Bane, he is caught and is chased by Bane and eventually knocked unconscious. On a ship, Bane tied Robin with metal chains as he awaits for Batman. Upon seeing the Dark Knight, he pumps himself full of venom and attacks the Caped Crusader. However, due to his agility, Batman holds his own and is able to free Robin. Upon freeing Robin, however, Bane kicks him into a nearby pool and resorts to fighting Batman. Batman is eventually overpowered by Bane, at which point he picks up the Dark Knight and is about to break his back over Bane's knee when Batman jams a batarang into his venom control on his wrist, at which Bane begins to inflate due to the non-stop flow of venom into his body. Batman quickly removes the tube from Bane's head before Bane explodes. Not literally explodes, but explodes due to the amount of venom in his body. Bane doesn't actually die. Bane falls onto the ground defeated, and Batman returns to Thor and tells him to pick a better assassin next time before leaving. Another prominent role was in the Batman 2004 show. After Batman foils the plan of 3 mob bosses, they all agree to hire a killer named Bane. Bane attacks an armored vehicle as well as security guards in hopes that it draws Batman's attention. Batman sees the report while in the Batcave and rushes to the crime scene, closely followed by detectives Yin and Bennett. Batman and Bane engage in a fight, and Batman holds his own well until Bane injects himself with a chemical he calls Venom. Bane, now enormous, easily defeats Batman and leaves the Caped Crusader for dead in an alleyway. Alfred comes to Bruce's aid and attends to his wounds while Detective Yin and Bennett leave the scene. A few weeks later, Yin is interviewed by the press after a recent attack by Bane, in which she states that the Batman is probably dead after his confrontation with Bane. Bruce continues to heal at home while Bane continues his crime spree, and Gotham begins to think that Batman is dead. Alfred pleads for Bruce to hang up the cape and cowl, saying that this event may allow Bruce to live a normal life at last. After healing, however, Bruce continues his invention, the Batbot. At a nearby location, we see that Bane is causing more havoc. While Detective Bennett tries to use an elevator to help Detective Yin, Bane smashes the elevator, leaving the stairs as the only way for Bennett to reach his location. Meanwhile, Batman, in the Batbot, battles the Venom-powered Bane. Bane, however, is too strong and nearly destroys the Batbot. However, Batman quickly grabs a nearby exposed electrical wire and pushes it into Bane's Venom injection port. The mix of electricity and venom causes Bane to shrink back to his normal size, while Batman calls for Alfred to pick him up. Detective Yin and Bennett soon arrest Bane. While this isn't Bane's only appearance, he also has lesser appearances in the show, such as the rubber face of comedy in Season 1, Episode 12, Brawn in Season 3, Episode 7, Team Penguin, Season 4, Episode 2, Rumors, Season 4, Episode 11, The Joining, Part 2, Season 4, Episode 13, and The Batman-Superman Story, Part 1, Season 5, Episode 1. In other media, and lesser roles, the Batman and Robin movie, in which Bane plays a critical role in the more campy version of Batman. Alongside Poison Ivy and Mr. Freeze, Bane helps the villains perpetuate their plans. However, he's stopped by the Dark Knight. Batman and Superman Public Enemies, where Bane briefly appears in the movie. However, he's taken out by the destruction of his own venom tubes. The Arkham Breakout movie, a very short, fight with Batman. Batman Beyond, a short appearance where the viewer learns that Bane is subject to constant dependence of venom in order to live. Superman the Animated Series, Superman disguises himself as Batman and confronts Bane. After tossing a large rock onto Superman, who Bane thinks is Batman, he thinks he's killed the Dark Knight. However, he's defeated after finding out that he's wrong and finding out that it's Superman, not Batman. Lesser movie roles: Batman the Brave and the Bold, Young Justice, the Lego Batman movie, Lego DC Superheroes, Gotham the TV show, and Mystery of Batwoman. The Dark Knight Rises, which I guess could have had its own slot to talk about, but his role was large, but also not exactly the big lead-up villain, which is why I put it here. Bane plays a massive role in the Nolan film. While being the poster boy for Talia al Ghul's plan, he is a legitimate threat to Batman. However, Bruce underestimates Bane's ferocity, as shown in the stock exchange scene. Alfred warns Bruce about confronting Bane when Bruce has been out of combat for so long.
What about when you come up against him? What then?
I'll fight harder, I always have.
Take a look. His speed, his ferocity, his training. I see the power of belief. I see the League of Shadows resurgent.
As we see in the movie, after, 8 years, I believe, since The Dark Knight and The Dark Knight Rises, so obviously not a lot going on. Bruce brushes off Alfred's advice, and his back is broken by Bane after being tricked by Catwoman. However, after Bruce's return to Gotham, Catwoman kills Bane after he threatens Bruce's life. I will say this is probably one of the most accurate depictions of Bane, if we're talking in both comic and real-world standards, because of the lack of venom that Bane uses. It's very real, but it's also true to the character's original lore. The Bane in The Dark Knight Rises is extremely smart and extremely tough to fight. His only fall, however, is underestimating Batman. So it was kind of a switch. At first, Batman underestimated Bane, as we see in the movie, because Batman, says to Alfred, I've seen, I've fought street thugs like this before, and Alfred's like, no way, like, this isn't a street thug. But upon returning to Gotham after having his back broken, Bane underestimates Batman. And if it wasn't for Talia al Ghul, Batman would have won. But we still know who won, which is, I guess, Catwoman, because she decides to shoot Bane. But he's also appeared in a few video games as a playable character, but hasn't had that big of a role. So the Lego Batman, the video game, Lego DC Superheroes, Lego Batman 3, and LEGO DC supervillains. He's also been a playable character in Injustice, Gods Among Us 1 and 2, and Batman the Brave and the Bold, I believe for both Wii and DS. So that is it. That is a cookie cutter sort of guide to Bane. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. This isn't any of my gameplay. I probably should have prefaced that at the start of the video. But the original gameplay will be in the description, as well as the resources for all the other videos shown in this video. If you guys enjoyed, please like and subscribe. I'll try to be posting weekly, but I can't promise anything, so we'll see how it goes. If you guys have any suggestions on the next villain that I should do, put the comments down below and I'll check those out. Alright, I will see you guys. God bless. Bye.